This happened a few months ago. I was working late at the research facility. The empty halls echoed around me. My only company was the sound of crashing waves outside. I was trying to focus, but I felt uneasy. It was around midnight when I first heard the static. I was seated at my desk, looking at the data from deep space. Suddenly, the noise shifted. I leaned in closer, thinking it was just interference. But then it felt like voices. I couldn't make out the words at first. The following nights were the same. Each time I sat down, the static would return, louder and clearer. I tried to ignore it. I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me. My colleagues didn't listen when I told them. "Just noise," they said. "You're imagining things." But I could not ignore it. I couldn't sleep. I saw strange symbols in my workspace. They appeared everywhere, on files, my tablet, even on the walls. I felt like I was being watched. I glanced around the empty facility. Shadows moved, but when I looked closer, they vanished. I told myself it was nothing, but deep down I knew something was wrong. One evening, I decided to listen closer to the transmissions. It felt different then. The air felt heavy. I could hear the static again. Leaning in, I tried to catch any words. "Why are you ignoring us?" a voice suddenly asked. I froze. My heart raced. I whipped around in my chair. The room was empty. I felt cold fear wrap around me. I told myself it was a trick. Maybe the signals were just random noises. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something needed to tell me something. I couldn't explain why, but I knew I had to figure it out. Days passed, and I became more obsessed. I started to write things down. I connected dots on a wall, but mostly I just felt lost. I tried to sleep, but rest wouldn't come. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw the symbols flickering behind my eyelids, whispering secrets I couldn't understand. Then one night, I was alone in the lab again. The lights flickered above me, and the static returned, more urgent this time. I leaned in closer to the monitor and strained to hear the voices. They were clearer now. I felt like I was drowning in sound. And then I heard it again, the same voice, asking me, "Why are you ignoring us?" I felt that presence pressing against me, cold and real. I felt the walls closing in. I turned, expecting to see someone, but nobody was there. My breath quickened. I stumbled back, knocking over my chair. Papers flew everywhere, a chaotic mess. This couldn't be happening. Then it dawned on me. This wasn't just noise. It was a warning. Whatever was sending these transmissions wouldn't stop until I understood. The messages felt crucial, but I didn't know how to decode them. I gripped my desk, my knuckles turning white. Every second felt like a countdown. I had to know what they wanted, but the room felt darker somehow. I realized this was only the beginning.
A chill ran down my back, and I could almost hear the whispers getting closer. I was in over my head, and deep down, I was terrified. The next day, I couldn't concentrate on my work. I kept replaying the voice in my head. "Why are you ignoring us?" I told myself it was just interference, but doubt gnawed at me. I needed to know more. I went to the conference room and found the others. They were gathered around the usual table, reviewing data from our latest deep space missions. I decided to press them. "Have any of you picked up strange signals?" I asked, trying to sound casual. They paused, exchanging glances. "Just background noise," one of my colleagues replied, dismissing me with a wave of his hand. "Why? Are you hearing something?" The others chuckled lightly, but I felt the laughter hit me like ice. I left the room frustrated. I wanted someone to take me seriously. I didn't have physical evidence, just a growing sense that I was on the brink of something dangerous. I knew I had to dig deeper. Later that afternoon, I returned to my desk, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. I opened my terminal and pulled up the transmission logs. I started scanning through the static, isolating any unusual frequencies. My heart raced every time the familiar static buzzed. As I filtered through the data, I noted something odd. The transmissions had a pattern. Each peculiar burst of static aligned with the lunar phases. Full moons coincided with heightened activity. I couldn't ignore the implications. What was sending these signals, and why did it seem connected to our moon? Then I saw a new entry within the log, something unfamiliar. I focused, trying to make sense of it. The frequency was unlike anything I had seen before. It hummed with a strange tone, different from the usual chatter of space. I had a feeling this was what the voice wanted me to find. I leaned closer, my breath hitching as I attempted to decipher it. That's when I heard it, A voice, low and nearly drowned out by static, repeating a phrase over and over. We exist beyond. I shivered, my skin crawling with every repetition. Who were they? What existed beyond us? Suddenly, the lights in the facility flickered again, plunging the room into darkness for a moment. My heart raced. When the lights returned, I felt something was different. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I turned around slowly, scanning the room, half expecting to see a figure looming in the shadows. I wasn't alone. Somewhere, beyond the walls, I sensed something, a pressure in the air that I couldn't shake off. Panic clutched at my chest. I knew I had to get out of there, now. But as I gathered my things, a loud crack echoed through the hallway, echoing all around me. "Is someone there?" I called out, my voice shaking. No answer came, just silence. I couldn't tell if the fear was real or another figment of my mind, but it felt like everything I knew was unraveling. Then I found myself facing the doorway.
Something in me twisted as I stepped toward it. I had to leave. As I reached for the handle, it began to turn on its own. I froze in place, my breath caught in my throat. I had to know what was on the other side, but I wasn't sure I was ready for the answer. I stood in front of the doorway, paralyzed. My instinct screamed at me to run, yet a morbid curiosity anchored me in place. The handle twisted more, and I couldn't fight the urge to peer through the crack into the dimly lit hallway beyond. Just then, I heard a scraping sound, like something dragging across the floor. It sent shivers down my spine, and I stepped back, my heart pounding in my chest. Was someone or something really out there? I needed to know, yet part of me feared what I might find. The noises grew louder, echoing in the silence of the facility, sharper now. It was a rhythmic scrape, like fingernails tracing a wall. My breath hitched as I finally summoned enough courage to push the door open. The hinges creaked ominously, and I stepped into the hallway, every step heavy with dread. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, adding to the eerie atmosphere. I scanned the corridor, heart racing at every shadow. "Hello?" I called out, each syllable swallowed by the void of silence that hung around me. I moved cautiously, each sound magnified in the desolation. And that's when I saw it, a fading blue light at the end of the hallway. It pulsed slowly, matching the rhythm of my own heartbeat. I hesitated, the conflicts inside me warring over curiosity and fear. Despite the chill racing through my veins, I felt compelled to investigate. As I approached, I saw it was emanating from a data terminal tucked in the corner, its screen flickering loudly. I stepped closer, trying to decipher what had caused the glow. The screen displayed a feed from the transmission log, my own findings scrolling by. Beneath it, a clear message flashed: "Reconnect for clarity." A part of me wanted to turn back, to forget all of this, yet another part begged for understanding. I couldn't ignore the connection to the phrases I had heard. I glanced back toward the way I'd come. The air in the hall felt thicker, like a weight pressing against me. I instinctively knew something, or someone, was hunting for me. Time was running out. I turned to the terminal again, feeling fate push me onward. As I reached to interact with the screen, another crack echoed behind me, sharper and more pronounced than before. I whipped around. The light at the end of the hallway flickered and started to dim. Panic ignited in my chest, and I faced the terminal again. What I didn't expect was for the screen to suddenly distort, displaying fragmented images of the moon, shadowy shapes shifting and swirling. I couldn't understand what I was seeing, but the voice echoed in my mind. "We exist beyond." Then the temperature around me dropped, and I heard a whisper, barely audible and almost drowned out by static, pleading, "Help us." The lights flickered one last time, and suddenly I felt a presence behind me, a cold breath on my neck. It was time to choose, but choose what? I was poised between the wonders of understanding and the terror of the unknown. I had to decide, before whatever was lurking in the shadows decided for me. My fingers hovered over the terminal screen, caught between the urgency to flee and the unsettling allure of the unknown. The whispering had grown stronger, pooled like a murky river at the back of my mind.
I had to act. My instinct screamed to get out of there, yet curiosity, twisted with fear, urged me closer. With a shaky breath, I finally pressed a few buttons on the terminal. The screen glitched. Lines of code cascaded down, forming incomplete words. One phrase caught my attention. Unknown frequency detected. My heart began to race as the terminal flickered again. A low thrum filled the air, pulsing like a heartbeat. It felt alive, almost sentient. But something else was happening. From the corner of my eye, I noticed movement. Shadows swirling at the end of the hallway, just beyond the reach of the dim light. I turned my head slowly, half expecting to see something there. But it was gone. Just an empty corridor now, bathed in an uneasy silence. Still, the atmosphere thickened, pressing against me, filling the space with dread. "Help us!" The voice rang out again, clearer this time, more demanding. I turned back to the terminal, desperate to glean more information. What did it want? And who was us? I pressed on, typing frantically, my heart hammering in my chest. Suddenly, the screen displayed a different kind of data. Coordinates. They flickered at the edge of the galaxy map, drawing a faint line to a spot just beyond the orbit of Neptune. My breath caught. What could possibly be out there? Was this an invitation or a trap? An electric surge coursed through the terminal, and the lights above flickered violently, casting grotesque shadows against the walls. I barely had time to register my surroundings when that scrape returned, louder this time, definitive and dragging. Fear seized me. I was no longer alone. The screen began to glitch again, but not with images or coordinates. It displayed a countdown. 10, 9. What did it mean? My mind raced. I had to get out. I backed away from the terminal, eyes darting to the shadows at the end of the hall where the noise grew sharper. Just then, the lights went dead. My world collapsed into complete darkness, only the echo of my panicked breathing and a relentless thrum remaining. I felt the oppressive darkness settling like a heavy blanket, suffocating. Without any light to guide me, I was utterly lost. I turned to run, but in that moment of confusion, my foot caught on something cold and metallic. I stumbled and fell, panic gripping my chest. My hand brushed against the floor, and I felt a cold, slimy texture. I froze. My heart pounded as I fought the urge to scream.
Just then, I glimpsed a faint glow peeking through the darkness, illuminating something on the ground beside me. I squinted, straining to see. It was a small, hollow orb, pulsating with that haunting blue light. I reached out to touch it, desperate to understand what it was. But the moment my fingers made contact, a surge of raw energy shot through me. A blinding light erupted around me, and everything went silent. I barely registered the presence that loomed over me. Time lost meaning. I was caught in a storm of sound, light, and the realization something was coming back to claim what it had lost, or perhaps what I had just found. I gasped as the light faded, revealing a figure hovering in the gloom. It was slender and elongated, almost featureless, yet I felt the weight of its presence pressing into my reality. My instincts screamed to run, but my feet were rooted. I was caught between terror and awe. As the figure shifted slightly, the blue orb from earlier began to resonate, casting flickering shadows that danced across the walls. I could hear faint murmurs blending with the thrum, growing ever so slightly louder. It sounded like words, familiar yet distant. "Find us. Finish what was started." The voice echoed again, pulling at the edges of my consciousness. I could feel something sprawling inside me, a call I couldn't ignore. But what did this mean? Who had started what? Then, the terminal jolted back to life, its screen glowing with renewed intensity. The countdown had reset. This time it read 5, 4. I had mere seconds to make a choice. "Please," I shouted into the void, my voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" My words hung in the air, met with an eerie silence. But I could feel their urgency within me, a twisted sense of time folding beneath its weight. The figure moved again, almost in choreographed unison with the pulse of the orb. It pointed a slender limb toward the terminal, where new data flashed before me. A deeper set of coordinates illuminated the screen, this time nested within a set of temporal parameters. It appeared to chart a course through time as well as space. My head spun.
I was grasping at threads of an impossible truth. This wasn't just about what lay beyond Neptune. It was about the past and perhaps my own history. Suddenly, the whole area trembled. The walls echoed with a low-frequency vibration that seemed to resonate with the orb. I staggered, but held my ground. The entity loomed closer now, and in its approach, a whirling vortex of light spiraled around it, as if it were drawing energy from the very air. I wasn't sure if it was fear or something else that had my heart racing. Instinctively, I raised my hands, hoping to stop it somehow. "I don't want any part of this," I shouted, desperation spilling into my voice. The countdown ticked down. 3, 2. Then the lights flickered back on, casting everything in an unnatural brightness. And in that moment, I saw it clearly. A reflection in the orb. An image.
A face. It looked like mine. My breath caught as I realized what that meant. I was linked to this, tied to whatever was happening, to whatever had been asked of me. Just then, the countdown stopped. A loud thud resonated from the hallway, followed by a chilling silence. Whatever was lurking out there had grown quiet. But it was not over. The figure stretched toward me, its shape blending with the energy swirling from the orb. I knew I couldn't stay here. In an instinctive motion, I turned to run, but the hallway felt impossibly longer, an endless void teeming with uncertainty. Then it hit me, the urge to turn back. Something was compelling me to find out more, to embrace whatever it was. The temperature dropped, and I could hear the whispers again, clearer now, almost like a siren's call. "You must come." I hesitated. Time was running out, and my choice hung heavy in the air. I stole a final glance at the ethereal figure before plunging into the darkness once more, feeling the weight of infinity pressing down on me. Whatever lay ahead might reveal everything. I just hoped it wouldn't consume me instead. I stumbled forward, the darkness swallowing me whole. The urgency of the whispers drummed in my ears, pushing me deeper into the unknown. Each step felt like a lifetime as I fought against the instinct to flee. Shadows twisted and curled around me, yet adrenaline fueled my resolve. I had to uncover what was behind all of this, what lay beneath the surface. The hallway opened into a vast chamber. Odd symbols, some flickering violently, covered the walls. They pulsed in time with the blue orb, which I could see now was housed within a triangular structure. My instincts warned me to keep my distance, but curiosity pinned me in place. Suddenly, behind me, a noise echoed, a scraping sound, low and deliberate. I whipped around, heart racing. The dark was no longer empty. A flicker of movement caught my eye. It was another figure, similar but not quite the same as the one I had encountered moments ago. This one was shorter, its colors shifting like oil on water. "Stay where you are," I called out, the tremor in my voice betraying my bravado. The figure paused but didn't withdraw. Instead, it raised one arm, and a beam of light shot from its palm. The orb responded, flaring brightly as it clashed with the light beam. I shielded my eyes from the sudden brightness. "What do you want from me?" I shouted again, feeling the fear inching up my spine. The figure shifted, and I caught a glimpse of a glimmering eye that seemed to bore into my soul. "You are the key," it breathed, its voice a harsh whisper that spun around the air. "You were always meant to find us." What did that even mean? I wanted to question it further, to make sense of everything, but my mind raced with thoughts of how the fate of my world was tied to theirs. "I don't understand," I pleaded, grappling with the weight of the moment.
"You will have to," it replied, stepping forward, more out of focus than ever. "Your past binds you to us." Just as I opened my mouth to respond, the ground shook violently. The orb blazed with ominous intensity, and suddenly the symbols along the walls started to glow, revealing images as if they were playing through some twisted projector. I saw scenes flash by, many of them the same face I had glimpsed, over and over again. My face. My heart dropped as realization hit me like a freight train. It wasn't just about the entity or the orb. It was about me. Then a loud crash resonated behind me.
I spun around just in time to see the darkness coalesce into a shadowy figure, more substantial and menacing than the first. With unearthly speed, it lunged forward, closing the distance in an instant. Instinctively, I ducked just as it reached me, my legs propelling me back toward the chamber's entrance. In that moment, my heart pounded with instinct. I had to move. I had to escape. I darted toward the flickering symbols, the echoes of the entity's voice trailing behind me. You must choose. I burst into the hall, sprinting away from whatever was chasing me, knowing that my choices weren't just my own anymore. They were intertwined with the fate of something much bigger. And as I ran, the whispers grew louder, calling me back, promising answers, but holding unspoken dangers. I had no idea what was waiting ahead, but I felt the weight of the decision I'd soon have to make, and somehow I knew it would change everything. I ran through the twisting hallways, the echoes of my footsteps mingling with the intensified whispers. Each corner I turned felt like stepping deeper into a dream that was turning into a nightmare. The shadow behind me was relentless, fast, and cruel. I glanced over my shoulder, and my heart sank. It was gaining on me. Suddenly, the corridor opened up into another chamber. It was darker than the last, but I could make out shapes shifting in the corners. My lungs burned, demanding oxygen, but I pressed on, desperate to find a way out. I spotted a door at the far end, its frame barely illuminated by a flickering overhead light. Without thinking, I raced toward it. Just as I reached the door, I heard a growl, a low, guttural sound that sent chills down my spine. I pulled the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Panic surged through me, and I slammed my shoulder against it, but it still resisted. The growl grew louder, filling the space with an ominous energy. In a last-ditch effort, I twisted the handle again, and miraculously, it clicked open. I stumbled through the doorway, slamming it shut behind me. My breathing was ragged, and I leaned against the door, bracing myself for the impact I knew was coming. The shadow thudded against the door, but it held, for now. I took a moment to gather my thoughts. The room was smaller than the last, cluttered with strange gadgets and devices that hummed and whirred ominously.
There was a glowing console in the center, its light pulsing in sync with the orb from the previous chamber. I approached cautiously, testing the air for threats. The surface was slick, covered in more of those symbols. As I reached out to touch it, the symbols flared to life, and a holographic display shot up into the air, showing moving images and words I couldn't quite grasp. My eyes widened as I recognized one word: Savior. I jerked my hand back as a rush of dread coursed through me. What did they want from me? Then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a figure reflected in the hologram, an image of the same shadow that chased me. It shimmered just behind me in the other room. It hadn't given up. With no time to waste, I turned back to the console, my fingers hovering. I wasn't ready to find out more about what they needed, but I had to do something. I needed answers. As I selected another image on the interface, the shadows behind me flickered momentarily in the holograph. Suddenly, a distorted voice emanated from the console, speaking in a blend of languages I didn't understand. This was it. I was standing at a precipice of knowledge I never sought. You must remember, the voice implored, layering whispers that bounced off the walls, choking the air around me. Then, everything went dark. I squinted, struggling to see. The room seemed to vanish, replaced by an endless abyss filled with swirling shadows. I felt weightless, as if I had been torn from the reality I knew. Gripping to the console, I saw a tiny pinprick of light cutting through the darkness. Someone else was out there, I realized. The feeling of urgency morphed into desperation. I couldn't let whatever was behind me reach me again. It sought more than just me. It craved something deeper, something powerful. My heart raced as I moved toward the light, fully aware that the darkness could swallow me whole again. That light was my only hope. I felt the pull of the light and pushed forward, my feet barely touching the abyss. Each step felt like wading through thick mist, the shadows swirling around me, almost alive. I gasped for air, but it felt heavy in my lungs. The light flickered, drawing me closer, a beacon in the suffocating darkness. As I neared it, the atmosphere shifted. The shadows recoiled, hissing like wounded creatures. A strange pressure built in my chest, the kind that signals something profound was about to happen. I reached out, my fingers brushing against the edge of the light, and in that instant, the world erupted again. I was suddenly pulled into a vast expanse. I found myself in a circular room, the very heart of something ancient. Symbols and runes lined the walls, glowing softly, breathing like they were alive. I turned slowly, my fear morphing into awe. This was no ordinary place. It felt like a sanctuary and a prison woven together. Then I heard it, a voice resonating through the space, clear yet haunting. "Welcome, Savior."
The words wrapped around me, familiar yet terrifying. My stomach knotted. What was happening? Why was I here, and what did that title mean? "Your presence has been anticipated," the voice continued, echoing off the stone walls. "You hold the key to balance." "What does that mean?" I stammered, feeling foolish talking to an unseen force. I glanced around, half expecting something to emerge from the walls. "It's vital you understand." The voice grew more intense. "Your choices will alter the threads of reality. The shadow seeks to consume what you possess. You must embrace your power before it's too late." Panic clawed at my throat. Power? I didn't want any part of that. I wanted to escape, to find safety outside these walls. I started backing away. "I don't want this!" But the light pulsed, the shadows shifting in response. My feet stumbled over each other as I turned to flee. I desperately searched for the way back to the door, but it wasn't there. Instead, the shadows began to creep closer, coiling around my ankles like serpents. "You cannot escape your destiny," the voice commanded, now sharp and unyielding. "You must confront it." I felt a surge of anger. Destiny? I never asked for this. My resolve hardened as I turned to face the energy shimmering around me. I don't even know what I'm meant to do. In response, a large projection materialized before me. It showed chaotic images, wars, destruction, darkness, and then moments of hope, people holding hands, standing together. I recognized faces among them, those I cared about, lost moments captured in time. "Choose," the voice said, calm yet firm, dismissing my fears. I strained to understand what kind of choice this was. I couldn't just stand here. The shadows were drawing closer, their growls echoing menacingly. That's when I saw something else, a flicker of light in the darkest corner, glowing faintly. It felt important, and I had to act fast. Without thinking, I lunged toward it, driven by instinct that it held the answers I sought. But as I grasped it, darkness enveloped me again, pulling me deeper into the abyss. It was a trap. The shadows had been waiting for this moment, and I was terrified of what would come next. I plunged head first into the void, the sensation tight like a noose around my chest. The darkness twisted, wrapping itself around me and distorting my sense of direction. My heart raced as I felt weightless, untethered in a world devoid of light. The flicker I had chased vanished into the shadows, leaving me with nothing but terror. Suddenly, a rush of air surrounded me, and I landed hard against a cold stone surface. My body ached, but I took a moment to gather myself. I blinked against the dimness, trying to orient myself. My surroundings were alien, but faint glimmers of light were scattered around, beckoning me like distant stars. I pushed myself up and scanned the area. I was in a cavern of space, the walls slick with moisture.
The lights pulsed rhythmically, casting eerie shadows. It felt alive, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. A low growl resonated from the darkness, sending shivers down my spine. I turned sharply, heart pounding. The growl turned into the unmistakable sound of claws scraping against stone. My blood ran cold. Panic surged as I stumbled back, my breath quickening. "Show yourself," I shouted, my voice betraying my fear. The shadows shifted, and a figure began to emerge, tall and menacing. It had elongated limbs and a gaping maw lined with jagged teeth. My instinct screamed at me to run, but fear kept me rooted in place. "Foolish mortal," it hissed, its voice a jagged whisper that sent chills racing across my skin. "You seek power, but have yet to learn the cost." "What do you want?" I asked, steadying my voice. "I haven't done anything." "You have everything to lose," it replied. "You are the key, but in your ignorance you threaten us all." My mind raced. The voice from earlier, was this the shadow it warned me about? The one that wanted to consume reality? "I didn't ask for any of this," I shot back, desperation fueling the fire in my words. It laughed, a sound both unsettling and mocking. "Power is not offered, it is taken, and you stand at the precipice. Are you prepared to pay the price?" I could feel the darkness clawing at the edges of my mind, threatening to pull me under. I had to think fast. Instead of running, I decided to confront it. "Why me?" I demanded. "What makes me special?" The creature paused, its piercing gaze boring into me. "You don't understand your importance. You felt the threads of fate weaving around you. The light you sought is barred of you. Embrace your truth, or be devoured." As the gravity of its words hit me, a strange warmth flickered inside. It was the power I'd felt when I first approached the light. Could I really harness it? Could I fight back? But before I could respond, the ground beneath me began to tremble.
Cracks formed between the stones, and the shadows writhed violently. The entity let out a guttural scream that echoed through the chamber. "I will not let you choose," it roared. And in that moment, everything went dark. The air thickened, pressing down on me, suffocating. I could feel the shadows wrapping tighter around my body. I knew I had to fight back or be lost forever. Then I remembered the flicker of light. It had been a part of me. That's when I felt the energy surge again, stronger this time, pulsing alive within me. I had to tap into it, to stand against the encroaching darkness before I lost everything. The choice was mine, and I only hoped it would be enough. I awoke gasping on the floor of the facility, the sterile fluorescent lights above flickering back to life as if they had never gone dark. My heart raced, and I felt disoriented. The low thrum of the shadows and the growl of the creature were gone, but the tension hung in the air like a storm passing through.
I pushed myself up, my eyes darting around the room. I was alone, and yet I felt a constant pull at the back of my mind, as if the presence I encountered was still there, lingering close, whispering words I could no longer hear. As I stood, I noticed the terminal flickering, its screen displaying the same mystical symbols that had haunted me for weeks. The words seemed to glimmer, forming a new phrase: "The balance is restored, for now." A shiver ran through me. Had I truly defeated that shadow, or had I merely postponed the inevitable? I struggled to comprehend how much time had passed while I fought that darkness, but it hardly mattered now. What mattered was that I had survived, at least for the moment. I stepped towards the terminal for answers, but hesitated. Part of me feared what further knowledge it might hold. Instinctively, I glanced at the doorway. The hallway still felt ominous, even that moment of silence holding unspeakable weight. I leaned against the console, my breath steadying as I mustered the courage to walk away from this nightmare. Whatever I had faced, whatever I had encountered, it was not entirely gone. Leaving the lab, I made my way to the exit. Each footstep felt like I was walking through a dream, the echoes of the whispers still tingling on my skin. I had choices ahead: stay and confront what lingered, or leave and lock the door behind me. Stepping outside, I inhaled deeply, the cool night air cutting through the residual warmth of anxiety. The world felt unchanged, yet everything had shifted within me. I glanced up at the sky, and for a brief moment, I could have sworn I saw a flicker of light moving across the moon, a reminder of what had happened and what I had unleashed. A pang of uncertainty gnawed at me. As I drove home, the past few weeks weighed heavily on my mind. I thought about the shadows, the pulsing blues, and the figure that had shown me glimpses of both despair and hope. It begged further investigation, but part of me wondered if it was worth the risk. Was I meant to be their savior, or had I only set myself up for future entanglement? I parked my car, taking a deep breath before stepping into my home. I wouldn't let fear drive my life, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was not over. I thought about my colleagues back at the facility. What if they too were touched by those signals? What would happen if they found the truth locked within that familiar static? Settling into bed, I forced myself to close my eyes, hoping for some semblance of peace. Yet the whispers returned, dancing just outside my consciousness. As I drifted into a restless sleep, I felt a promise linger in my chest, a connection left waiting. Perhaps I could find the answers still to come, but deep down I knew the darkness would always follow, and whether supernatural or natural, I had yet to truly understand the vastness of what lay beyond and how I fit into this sweeping tale. The journey was only just beginning.